Okay, guys, in this video, we are going to take a look at basic operations on functions such as addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division, and also the domain of the division, which is going to be important here. Now, these functions are what we call polynomials, meaning that these are just some powers of x added and subtracted. So we've got x squared minus 81 as f of x, and then g of x is x minus 9. So the first part is saying find a new function which is called f plus g of x. But what that does is it basically means that you have to take f of x and add g of x to it. Okay, so and then also simplify. So here we're going to have x squared minus 81 plus x minus 9. So now we need to identify like terms. So remember, like terms are the terms that have the same powers of x. So here we have x squared, but there is no other x squared in here, so there is nothing to simplify that part. No way to simplify that part. Now, x is also by itself. There's nothing else that's like 5x or 3x or something like that. So you cannot simplify that. But the numbers, negative 81 and negative 9, that can be combined into one term. So to simplify, this is going to be x squared plus x, and then negative 81 subtract 9, so you start at negative 81 and go 9 to the left. That will give you negative 90. Okay, so that I can put right here. So this would be x squared plus x minus 90. Okay, the next function that we want to look at is the difference of f and g. So here we have f minus g of x. But that is just f of x subtract g of x. So let's see what that is. So we got x squared minus 81, and we want to subtract x minus 9. Now, a mistake would be to write it like this. Okay? Now, why is that a mistake? What's the problem? The problem here is that you have to subtract the whole g of x, right? And so what you do is you subtract this whole thing. It's very important to put parentheses because this minus will get distributed to each term. Okay, so here I'm going to get x squared minus 81 minus x, but then plus 9. So this is very important. This is a typical mistake a lot of students make. And just like with addition, there is no x squared term other than x squared. There is no term like x, so we just subtract x. But here we want to go from negative 81 and add 9 to that. So that would be negative 72. Of course, you can check that by a calculator. So, oops. Let's go to this blank. So it's x squared minus x minus 72. Okay, now let's look at the product and whether we can simplify it. So here we have f times g of x. So here we need to put parentheses around them. So we got x squared minus 81, and then we multiply that by x minus 9. So what will happen is we have to do something called FOIL, F-O-I-L, right? First, outer, inner, last. Okay, so let's see if we can do that. So we've got to multiply first. What that does is x squared times x. So remember, x squared is x times x, and then there'll be one extra x, and that's going to become x cubed. Okay, then we got outer. So that would be this right here. So we are multiplying x squared by negative 9. That'll give us negative 9x squared. Then inner, which is going to be this right here. So that would be negative 81x. And finally last. So last would be these. So that would be 81 multiplied by 9. And it's negative 81 multiplied by negative 9. So that'll actually be positive, and whatever is 81 times 9, let's see if we can figure that out. So we got 81 times 9, that's 729. Okay, so that would be 729. Now, there is no way to simplify this further. Remember that x cubed and x squared and x don't mix. You cannot simplify them or combine them into one term because they are not like terms. Okay, so let me just copy what I found, plus 729. Okay. So the next and the final step of this question is to find the fraction or the ratio. So here we got f divided by g of x. So what is that? Well, that's the same thing as f of x divided by g of x. So let's do that. So we're going to get x squared minus 81, and we're going to divide it by x minus 9. Now, how can you simplify something like that? Well, you need to realize that the top is actually difference of squares, because 81 can be written as 9 squared, right? So if you know your squares of basic numbers, 1 through 10, you would know that 81 is 9 squared. Okay, so then we have a formula, what is called difference of squares, which can be factored as sum of the whatever was squared multiplied by the difference. Okay, and then we divide that by x minus 9 that was on the bottom. Now notice what happens here. Whenever you have things multiplied, you can cancel. So if you have some stuff in the numerator and denominator that repeats and it's multiplied by something else, not added or subtracted. If it's added or subtracted, like if this was a plus sign, you couldn't simplify anything. But because it's a times, you can cancel out the same terms. So you got x minus 9 and another x minus 9 canceling out. And so the leftover is x plus 9. Okay, so that would be the final answer here. However, we do have to put something in this box. Something is wrong. Well, when you look at x plus 9, that's not a ratio. So nothing is wrong. You're not dividing by 0. Everything is fine. Well, when you were canceling that common term, you actually make an assumption that x minus 9 is not 0. What would be a problem with that? Well, if x minus 9 was 0, then you would have had a 0 on the bottom, which is not allowed. So this thing can cancel to x plus 9, but only when the bottom is not 0. Well, let's figure out when the bottom is 0, and that's the point we will have to exclude. So here, if we add 9 to both sides, we see that x is 9. That's when the bottom is 0. That's what the only value of x where this thing is going to break, because that happens when the bottom is 0.